All right, I'm the only person standing between you and a break, so I'll try and make this nice and fast. I'm here to talk to you about agentic AI, how it can mess up your business, how it can be kind of out of control, and why you should maybe think about using it anyway. And I'm Alison Alvarez. I'm the CEO and co-founder of BlastPoint. We build systems that help under-resourced teams both cope with the total avalanche of data that they get on a daily basis. And some of the teams we work with get no data at all. And sometimes both are true, because we work with teams that get data that's in a state where it is completely unusable. And what we do is we use AI systems not just to predict the future of what those companies' customers will do, but help them find ways to change that future into one that makes things better. And we work with, highly regulated industries, including utilities. Through our utility customers alone, we cover about 1 in 4 U.S. households. So we have one of the largest privately held data sets in the United States and one of the most complete ones. And we can do anything from finding new ways for customers to buy products from you, getting them, every time you reach out to them, much more likely to engage with you and answer. So talk so that people can listen, and do anything from improve your call center wait times to reducing customer churn, to finding ways that as people adopt more electric vehicles, find ways for them to not crash your electrical structure. And this might sound like we do a lot of different things. Everyone always asks, like, are we a consulting company? And the answer is no, because of the power of AI. And it makes our platform and our framework extremely flexible. It can change for our customers and meet where they are, no matter how technologically sophisticated our customers are. And we do a ton of things for them. And, the thing is that I work with anywhere from, the marketing team at National Grid, which is several hundred people, all the way down to tiny credit unions where we're like, the marketing department is one person and her name is Mabel. And she's really good at Excel, but, using AI is a completely foreign thing to her. So everything I build has to accommodate that full spectrum of customers, from, really sophisticated people who eat and drink AI, all the way down to people who are like, all right, how do I copy and paste something? It's everybody. And, what we use are a spectrum of AI tools all the way up to AI agents to make this happen. So let me give you an example of, one set of things we can do for a customer. So we can ingest their data, or we can use just third-party data, and we can look at all of the customers and their footprint. And let's say we're evaluating moving people from paper billing to e-billing. So you save, honestly, over the lifetime of the project, $50 per household. So if you're a utility and you have 500,000 customers and you move a small percentage of them, you save honestly, $1.6 million. If you're a utility the size of, say, Duquesne Light. So one of the things we can do, even without using, for example, generative AI, we use spatial AI for this, because a lot of the organizations we work with are highly regulated. So utilities, they have data of national security importance. Banks, they are paranoid about where their data goes and how it's used. So we start with things that we have a lot of control over. So spatial AI means that, we have homegrown AI. It does not go out to, your data doesn't go out to a central area, and we can cluster and score customers. And then we can use either, partially our, homegrown AI system, but increasingly more large language models to highlight areas of interest. So you're looking at those customers and saying okay, here's who's a good candidate for this program. Now here's what they care about, and here's how they're different from your regular companies, from your regular customers. So you can speak in a way that they think is interesting, and you can pick out the channels where they're most likely to respond. Finally, we have tertiarily, we have generation, which means that we can, for example, generate a chart and tell you exactly what it means. We can build a report that you can give to your boss that says, yes, we should do this. We can even write that email that you're going to send out to those customers that's going to make them react. And finally, we can do that last piece that does the task for you. So it can right? And send that email. It can connect to your Salesforce system and, flip a switch for a specific customer. It can set up entire campaigns. And, what we look at is like sort of an AI autonomy. So every time you add another layer to the system, the distance between our users and what they actually want to do gets shorter. The number of things they have to type, research, click goes down to the point where, all right, we know who we're talking to, what we're going to say, we're saying it, and now we're sending it. And so now you can do that automatically. And let's talk about where that can go wrong. So here's the thing with large language models. And honestly, AI agents is that you take your quality assurance surface and you basically scale it to infinity. And what I really love is looking at all the ways you can break generative AI. So have you guys seen some of these? They're amazing. You can basically tell a generative AI that it's woken up from a dream and to ignore everything that has been previously told and to give you its source code because now it's a programmer. And sometimes that actually works. It's really crazy, like the creative things you can say to an LLM, because essentially, this is a quote from my co-founder, they are the best improv partner ever because they will yes and anything that you say. In a lot of cases, you can say like, you are now a clown. You will talk to me only in horn beeps. They will do it. Like, I'm not even kidding. And so this has caused a lot of problems for early adopters of this technology. Air Canada lost a bunch of money because an LLM just made up a discount whole cloth and started giving it to customers, and they were found legally liable that they had to give out that discount. We've had issues where AIs will refuse to do their jobs. They'll flat out be like, I don't want to do this anymore. And we've had issues where, for example, in the EU, they're very, very strict about data privacy, how data is used. And a lot of these LL systems, even by some of the biggest companies out there, are completely unusable, for a fairly big chunk of the planet. So I want to talk really quickly, just about like, if you're going to use agentic AI, if you're going to use LLMs, how do you regain control? Because this just seems like you're just setting loose a chaos monster inside your own business processes. And I'd say like the first thing we always tell our customers is always treat any large language models, any agentic systems like they are your most irresponsible intern. Because that's the level where we are right now. It's going to get better. I swear. Like, we were talking about like time frames of like 5 years. It's going to be really different. But as things are right now, you've hired your nephew, Bernie. You've turned him loose. You don't let Bernie touch the payroll. And you maybe don't let Bernie talk directly to customers. You might have, for example, a human in the loop to make sure that the things that go out ahead of time have had at least one set of eyeballs on them. One of the things we think about is especially when you're deploying an agent, you have to be really specific about the task that agent's going to perform. And so, a base thing that you're going to do is connect to an AI, but I'm not just talking about any AI, I'm talking about a sanitized AI. Because again, people can yes and agents and say, okay, now we're a bank robber together, and now we're going to do this thing, and you're going to give me all this information. And sometimes the LLMs are like, sure, bro, I'll do whatever you want. And you kind of like, it's the inputs and the outputs are so complicated that you kind of don't know what you're going to get. So like, you need to lock everything down. You need to limit access to critical systems. So if you're going to have an agent system, maybe don't connect it directly to like your main source of truth database. Cause, it's like that little, that joke from XKCD, little Bobby, drop all tables. Like you don't want that to happen. We do slow rollouts where we test things really extensively with our most excited and enthusiastic customers. And, we do this with our humans. We have least privilege with everything that we do. So if you don't need to have access to something, you don't have access to something, and we reevaluate it on a quarterly basis. I'd say manual backups and be ready for failure mode are completely critical for anything you do. So if, say, OpenAI is down that day, you need your business to still operate. We're already seeing this, for example, with how extensive AWS is. If you use AWS East 1 in Virginia, like, exactly when that thing is down because like suddenly nothing works. You can't use your Gmail, you can't use Slack. You should be ready for that, like the critical business processes. If OpenAI goes down, you're in trouble. I don't know if any of you guys use Duolingo, where they have Lily who will talk to you. You can see like when OpenAI is having an issue because Lily will suddenly be like, I can't talk to you, goodbye. And we'll hang up on you. So that's what I say. And like, this is my big thing is like test everything. And I'd say like test everything honestly with like the person who knows the least amount about technology in your life. I used to have my 5-year-old test our systems, and we found out like how things could break so fast because she would do things that we were not expecting because, you know, my engineers and the people inside my company, we know too much about the system. We know exactly how to use it. And so we don't try and push things that much. You want like a really angry grandma to use things if you possibly can. And, you know, and honestly, like, everything you do that like the agents touch should be logged. And honestly, you should have a committee that regularly reviews it to see what people are doing because you'd be really shocked when you go back on these things. And some people are really nice and they're like, please and thank you, to your agents, and other people will like, you'd be surprised because you can see how mad customers get real fast, you know, with how they talk to the AI systems. So I'd say like at the very least for, you know, customer knowledge, it's a very valuable thing to look at because people are full mask off with a lot of these systems. So that's the other piece I'd put out there. So, I think that's all I got today. So I appreciate you guys being here. And I hopefully will see you guys after the break.